Star Wars Outlaws was a game I reviewed for the Xbox Series X about a year ago or so, and I didn't love the game. I liked portions of it. You know, I thought some stuff was cool. I played the game on day one, actually, before it came out. I got a review copy from Ubisoft, and I just wasn't in love with the game. Like, the last hour and a half of the game was really cool. It felt like a Star Wars game finally, but that sort of little moment was few and fleeting between all the other stuff in the game that I just wasn't a huge fan of. The game was a very stealth-driven game to the point of where you would get kicked out if you got discovered in certain bases or in certain areas. You didn't really have a chance to hide or combat or do anything to kind of defend yourself, and I felt like taking a game and placing it within the Star Wars universe during the original trilogy of films that, of course, took place in the 70s and the 80s, or were filmed and released in the 70s and 80s, and not to really rely a lot on the source material to kind of create new characters, just have little cameos here and there, but not really focus on all of that great source material was a bit of a missed opportunity. Now, Star Wars Outlaws was also announced for the Nintendo Switch too, and I was like, well, throw it on the crappy port pile. You know, there's been good ports. Street Fighter 6, WWE 2K25, Cyberpunk 2077, and then there's been bad ports. And I figured this would be at the helm, the behest of the bad port games. Because we saw a little snippet, and then that was it in a developer interview. Then we got some information out of PAX West. Some people were saying it was absolutely terrible, but one man actually said, you know what? It's going to surprise people. It's a pretty decent port. It's even impressive at times. And that man was Nintendo Prime. Now, I like to bust his balls quite often. And, you know, this, that, and the other. But Nintendo Prime was right on this. I have been playing Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2. You are looking at Star Wars Outlaws footage on the Nintendo Switch 2. And this is a damn good port. Now, granted, it's a port of a game that I'm not a huge fan of. However, technologically speaking, it is a great, maybe not great, a really good port of a game. It just isn't all that great. So Star Wars Outlaws, you play as a character named Kay Vess. Kay gets into some sticky situations. She has to leave her planet because she's in trouble. She's, of course, a mercenary type person doing jobs, trying to get money and all sorts of stuff. She has her little companion named Nix, who's a fuzzy little creature who can help you do your hood rat stuff, steal from the rich, maybe give to the poor. You're not really Robin Hood, KVS. But the story of the game, you know, it's pretty standard. There's betrayals, there's cameos from certain characters and stuff like that. It definitely takes place within a Star Wars universe, but like I said, I feel like they could have leaned into it a bit more to make it feel more like a Star Wars game. As the game stands now, it feels kind of like a thief style stealth driven game that takes place in a sci-fi universe more so than within a Star Wars universe, and I feel like that's kind of a missed opportunity here. Gameplay wise, there are different gameplay mechanics that you have. Of course, one of them is stealth. And the stealth in the original game, like I said, it was definitely driven home very hard. You get caught, you're getting thrown out. Now, they have since changed that, and they made it so that you can hide and defend yourself, and maybe that makes the game slightly more enjoyable for me to play, because you can actually do a little bit of risk and reward. Like, granted, you might still get shot up and die or whatever, but at least you're giving me an opportunity to defend myself, an opportunity to hide from people, an opportunity to sabotage things around me. Of course, you're not just doing stealth stuff either. There are times where you're platforming, there's times where you're flying a ship, there's times when you're commandeering a vehicle and going throughout the land, and of course exploring this Star Wars universe. I believe the game took me around 20-ish hours to play. I did have lots of different side quests that I could enable that I just never really did, because I was just trying to see the end of the game with the original release of the game. But I'm not really here to focus necessarily on the bread and the butter of the game itself, because you can watch my video on Star Wars Outlaws for the Xbox Series X and pretty much see, you know, what my thoughts were on it. I'm here more so to focus on the Switch 2 port and how it performs. And I mean, look at it. Like, you're seeing Switch, this is all Switch 2 footage captured by me. First and foremost, the Switch 2 version of the game does have cross-platform saving. So if you have your Ubisoft Connect account on a different device, you can change or you can transfer your save file from the other system onto the Switch 2 or vice versa. Now, of course, I have like a million of these freaking accounts, and I couldn't remember like the login for my Xbox One. So I had to start from scratch, but that's fine. You know, I already know what to expect with this game. But I did think that was a nice little feature that the game did offer. And in terms of performance, like, I'll be real with you. I expected this to be terrible. And I expected this to be me just pretty much saying, yeah, you know, it's not a great game, and this port of the game sucks. It runs bad, it looks bad, this, that, and the other. But it really doesn't. Like, it doesn't. And I put this game through the paces. I try different things, as you'll see as I'm playing the game. I did firefights. I did outer space stuff. I'm on the land speeder, you know, going around at high speeds, trying to make the game hiccup, trying to make the game falter, trying to make the game feel, you know, wrong or do something wrong. And it doesn't. Now, it's not 60 frames per second or anything like that, but I'm a big person of frame pacing, and as long as the frame pacing is good, I don't think the frame rate necessarily matters all that much. As long as the game feels good, feels responsive, and has good frame pacing, I feel like that can actually trump, you know, 60 frames that's dipping all over the place or something like that, whereas this is definitely probably 30 frames per second. But like, there's ray tracing in this game. There's impressive lighting effects in this game. And no matter what's happening, the gameplay seems to be staying at a rock solid frame rate, which I did not expect. Like I said, I expected this port to be not very good, but it is. I played a lot of this in handheld mode as well, and it is a little bit diminished in terms of the visual clarity as far as the crispness and sharpness of the textures is concerned, but it was more than playable in handheld mode, and I actually had some fun playing it in handheld mode as well. And I can honestly say, like, I did not expect this game to perform in the way that it is. And like, I don't know. It confuses me. It confuses me. You could see here in this space station, like, sometimes like the ground, like the lighting reflections on the ground can look a little bit wonky. Maybe the image quality looks a little bit too bright, a little bit blown out, you know, but like, dude, it shouldn't be looking and running as good as it does. Like, I dare say it's impressive. I dare say it is an impressive port of Star Wars Outlaws on the Nintendo Switch 2. And, you know, I'm still not in love with the game or anything like that. I still think the game has flaws and issues and should have leaned more into the Star Wars universe. But I like some of the additions that they've made since the original release, such as, you know, giving you a bit of leniency within the stealth stuff, giving you an opportunity to kind of, you know, explore a little bit more. And if something bad happens, like, okay, like you have a chance to defend yourself. You have a chance to survive within this world. And like I said, dude, I put this game through its paces. I got in firefights. I took to outer space. I got in dogfights in outer space. And like, everything was good. Everything was good. I had no catastrophic issues with this game, which just confuses the hell out of me, man. It's very confusing to me, because how is Ubisoft, of all people, making arguably one of the better ports on the system? Like, I'm putting this up there with WWE 2K25. I'm putting this up there with Street Fighter 6. I'm putting this up there with Cyberpunk 2077. And if I get more ports like this and more third-party games in terms of parity like this, as opposed to some of the less than ideal ports that we've seen on the Nintendo Switch 2, I think the Switch 2 is more than capable of holding its own. And it's bizarre that Star Wars Outlaws happens to be one of the games that's actually very impressive. Because if I would have bet money on this, my money would have been on this game not being visually impressive and having frame rate issues and frame rate pacing issues, looking and running like crap. But Nintendo Prime was right. You know, I'll give the devil his due here. So let me know what you think of this Star Wars Outlaws footage. This is all on the Nintendo Switch too. I might actually keep playing the game somewhat. You know, it's interesting. I can go in different paths and be nice to certain groups and be mean to certain groups that in the my first playthrough of the game, I wasn't like that. So, you know, maybe it'll be a little bit different. I don't know. I don't see myself like beating the game or anything like that again, but you know, shout outs to Ubisoft. Thank you, Ubisoft, for the review copy of this game as well. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Be sure to check out the video from earlier today as well if you happen to miss that video. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.
You did this all yourself?
Uh-huh. It's hard work, but it'll all be worth it when she hits the